Hello class, my name is Dr. John Yoder, and today we will be talking about SCP-7027. Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Provisional Containment Site-95 has been constructed near SCP-7027's point of terrestrial origin. Due to the relative isolation of Site-95 and the passive nature of Group of Interest 0184 and SCP-7027-1, minimal security is required. As of 2021, interacting with GOI 0184 is prohibited. Observation is to continue remotely as long as it does not disrupt the practices of GOI 0184. Refusal to comply with non-intervention will result in termination. Site-95 is to remain active to ensure the continued containment of SCP-7027-2. Research into SCP-7027-2 is to remain on hold for the foreseeable future. Description: SCP-7027 designates an anomalous phenomena, primarily harnessed as a process of physical transfiguration and psychological augmentation by members of a monastic order located in the Karakoram mountain range. Individuals infected by SCP-7027 are classified as SCP-7027-1. The anomaly initially manifests as a 15mm to 25mm diameter black circular dots on the center of an infected individual's forehead. This mark superficially resembles a decorative bindi, but is irremovable unless surgically excised soon after infection. As SCP-7027 progresses, it will consume the face of its hosts, causing the front of the skull to sink and eventually collapse into an indeterminately deep void before slowly spreading to the rest of the body. Flesh blackened by SCP-7027 does not reflect light, and will, over a period of time, develop holes and fissures that further disfigure SCP-7027-1, and, like the aperture that consumed much of the host's head, displays physically impossible interior dimensions. Objects introduced to these voids are ultimately unrecoverable. SCP-7027 created cavities produce a continuous discharge, the emanation visibly behaving in a manner similar to a hot gas or plasma, but appearing almost completely opaque, save for its outermost zone, which bears a semi-translucent quality, which blurs and distorts the space around it. All efforts to extract a sample have failed, leaving its chemical composition unknown, if chemical composition is in any way applicable to the anomaly. Despite its resistance to analysis, it has been discovered that the temperature around the fissures steadily decreases, closely approaching absolute zero as the SCP-7027-1 enters the final stage of infection, at which point they disintegrate before disappearing completely, leaving no trace of matter, including when the subject is held in a fully sterilized vacuum-sealed containment unit. The progression of SCP-7027 violates the law of conservation of mass, with the subatomic particles composing SCP-7027-1 undergoing annihilation without the apparent introduction of their respective antiparticles. The transformation occurs over decades, and inevitably results in the destruction of vital organs, including the brain and heart. By this stage, SCP-7027-1 are clinically deceased, requiring neither sleep nor sustenance, but remain mobile and will continue to wander the monastery when not seated in meditation. The Foundation has yet to uncover the exact source of SCP-7027, but physical symptoms of infection follow only after the monks have confined themselves within the walls of the monastery. These interiors are just large enough to allow for meditation and function as a form of sensory deprivation. The monks believe that, by immersing themselves in darkness, they allow their bodies to become its host. There have been reports from personnel at Site-95 describing possible paranatural encounters, but the ephemeral nature of these incidents renders them unconducive to repeat experimentation and classification. The following is a list of purported incidents. Sightings of mobile humanoid shadows without apparent source. Higher frequency of night terrors and sleep paralysis. Sudden transitory cold spots, even within the insulated and heated sections of Site-95. Higher than average radio interference in and around the monastery. The appearance, and rapid disappearance, of black stains throughout the monastery, though these may represent an unknown species of slime mold. Long-term personnel displaying a steady decrease in feelings of self-worth during routine psychological examinations, without symptoms typically associated with depression. Though this is possibly a mundane reaction to observing the practices and traditions of GOI 0184. The Foundation became aware of SCP-7027 in 1956, following reports of unusual disfigurements occurring among members of an isolated Buddhist sect in Tibet. Due to the singular nature of their philosophy, the sect and monastery hold no formal name, but the residents of neighboring villages commonly referred to them as the Empty Ones, literally, those who are empty of being. Classified as GOI 0184, the order practices an extreme form of asceticism and forbids the use of personal names, depictions of the human form, or even the preservation of its own history. It is believed by members of GOI 0184 that enlightenment, bodhi, or awakening, can only be achieved through drastic humility. To do this, they must be purged of vanity and pride, with corporeal existence regarded as the, quote, final arrogance to be undone. Through SCP-7027, the monks believe they can permanently escape samsara, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Despite their surface resemblance to other Buddhist sects, GOI 0184 bears many significant deviations. For example, the monks of GOI 0184 believe in Akriyavada, derived from the Sanskrit akriya, meaning inactive, torpid, and worthless. A heretical doctrine which claims that moral acts have no consequences and therefore no influence on rebirth. Unlike most monastic traditions, GOI 0184 includes both men, Zhelong, and women, Zhelongma, many initiated as children. All are expected to practice the same level of asceticism, regardless of age, gender, or physical health. This life of austerity includes the renunciation of material possessions, avoidance of physical pleasures, and meager diets that leave members in a state of chronic starvation, though without many of the symptoms associated with severe inanition. Members of GOI 0184 practice ritual self-mortification, believing that pain, humiliation, self-denial, and disfigurement aid in the destruction of ego. Prior to containment, methods of humiliation often involved visiting neighboring villages, where monks would remove their clothes, smear themselves in dirt and ash, and, non-verbally, beg or incite the locals into physically assaulting them. Despite frequent injury and infection, this behavior has never been observed to result in fatalities, and the villagers regard their actions as part of a tradition beneficial to the monks, as opposed to violence committed out of sincere ire. GOI 0184 does not actively recruit and instead receives initiates by anomalous means. Newly arrived members have refused to communicate, suggesting a priori knowledge of at least some of the Order's tenets. As they are unwilling to divulge information, their reasons for joining are unknown. It is presently hypothesized that SCP-7027's influence extends beyond the monastery and is capable of compelling certain individuals to join through anomalous suggestion, or possibly even direct control. Foundation allows these supplicants within Site-95 as they provide a steady flow of SCP-7027-1 specimens for research who willingly accept their permanent containment and do not interfere with the work of personnel. Due to the region's extreme terrain, it is possible that some of those called to the monastery do not survive the journey. As all members appear to be of Tibetan or Nepalese descent, it is likely that SCP-7027's reach is limited to the region or determined by a genetic component, but it is also possible that these common elements are purely coincidental. The single exception to this pattern is SCP-7027-1, Subject 251, which will be further elaborated upon in the section detailing the incident of September 12, 1997. The monks of GOI 0184 maintain a vow of silence, leaving only a single person to represent and speak for the sect. Rendered the de facto leader of GOI 0184, this individual, classified as POI 539, refers to himself as a bodhisattva, whose position requires that he refrain from certain aspects of the faith in order to facilitate the path to nirvana for other monks, a practice not unheard of, and which can be found in the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism. As a result, POI 539 has avoided infection by SCP-7027, though intends to seek a successor so that he might begin the process. POI 539. Interview, June 22nd, 1956. Interviewed, POI 539. Interviewer, Dr. Jonathan Isaac. Forward. POI 539 is a Tibetan man, estimated to be between the age of 50 to 60. Like other members of GOI 0184, all efforts to find further identification have failed. As he otherwise lives by the tenets of his order, his body appears malnourished and covered with infected wounds. Interview conducted in and translated from Lhasa, or Standard Tibetan. Begin log.
Am I to understand that you have no name? You must have had a life before.
We are slate wiped clean. Past is erased along with the name. There is only the way. If this one must be labeled, Bodhisattva will suffice, for it is this one's purpose.
No, that won't be necessary, POI 539. Simply a matter of record, though not required. Please, tell me about what you mean by the way.
We follow the way back of the Black Buddha. To exist, to impose yourself on reality, is the foundational conceit upon which all suffering is derived. It is not a path to work, not a goal to be sought. It is simply surrender.
And what do you become?
Becoming implies creation. We do not become anything. We are unmade. Shunyata embraces us.
Typically translated as emptiness or voidness.
It is a truth without color or shape. It permeates, festers, and soaks us in darkness. Others would struggle. They would cling to the illusion of life.
But why this process? There are swifter methods to end your life.
You still fail to understand. Death is meaningless. The flesh is returned to the earth. The soul is returned to samsara. The cycle continues. Sacrifice yourself in vain. There is no mercy, no enlightenment in the turning of the wheel.
Is existence really so awful? It seems that much of your pain is self-inflicted.
Life is suffering, but it is not without a certain insidious beauty. It fascinates, it enthralls, and it binds us to these realms, to fragile and fleeting forms. The illusion is dispelled the moment you recognize it for the fleshhood that it is. There can be no return to ignorance, no matter how comforting the lie may be. We seek escape before the truth is lost to death and rebirth, to the ceaseless turning of the hated wheel.
I believe I understand you now. But tell me, why SCP-7027? Why this method? How does it work?
There are three great illusions, three shackles which bind us: life, the world, and the self. We must surrender to the obliteration of the self. If we are ever to transcend, one cannot fight the self, for it feeds on struggle. This tether cannot be broken, but there is a way to slip free. One must sink so low to the darkest, most wretched depths. When we achieve shunyata, the void consumes that which we manifest, and a shackle cannot bind what no longer exists. It slips away, like rain from our hands, like dust upon a wind. This is the obliteration of the self.
I see. That will be all. Thank you for your time.
End log. Ground-penetrating radar detected the presence of man-made objects beneath the monastery and its surrounding land. Initial discoveries include a number of large ash deposits containing traces of paper, birch bark, and silk, most likely immolated manuscripts, and heavily damaged Buddhist statues and murals, which have been carbon dated to the 14th century CE. Reconstructed statues were found to resemble the Buddha, seated in a lotus position, but as no fragments of the face were discovered, it is hypothesized that the statues were procured intact, originally defaced to resemble SCP-7027-1, only to be shattered and buried some time later. Careful restoration of the murals would reveal depictions of robed figures, presumably monks, wreathed by an aura of black flames, which undoubtedly represented SCP-7027. Based on this evidence, it can be surmised that GOI 0184 had not always forbade artistic representation, but adopted aniconism. Aniconism is the prohibition of material representations in a culture or religion, typically applied to deities, prophets, and saints, but can also extend to all things natural and supernatural, resulting in or preceding an iconoclastic episode between the 14th and 15th century CE. On April 17, 1987, the GOI 0184 monastery was damaged by a natural landslide. As the section was rarely used, there were fortunately no fatalities. The disaster would reveal the presence of man-made structures beneath the monastery. Following an archaeological survey of the site, it was determined that the ruins were Epipaleolithic and built not long after the arrival of modern humans to the region. Building material consisted of stone, bone, and clay, though the architecture itself displays a level of ingenuity uncommon among contemporaneous cultures. The structure had been built at the mouth of a natural mountain cavern, which was discovered to contain a gallery of well-preserved parietal art, including a pair of murals. The first depicts a tall white humanoid with their left hand over their heart, where splashes of red pigment suggest injury, and the right hand extended with the palm facing up. 6 ochre-color humanoids prostrate themselves before the larger white figure. A black formless substance rises from the ground and enters the open mouths of the smaller, presumably human figures. Despite its greater size, the white humanoid is not depicted as domineering, more likely a teacher or spiritual leader than a king or conqueror. What at first was mistaken for a tail turned out to be a crack in the wall, but its appearance, along with the figure's enlightened countenance and pose, has led one Tibetan specialist to make a comparison to Pha Trelgen Changchup Sempa. Pha means father, Trelgen, old monkey, Changchup, enlightenment, and Sempa meaning intention, the mythical monkey ancestor of the Tibetan people. The second mural displays a complex 3-leveled scenario, centered around a tree with deep roots. Viewed from the bottom up, it depicts black serpents gnawing on the roots which have black veins, perhaps to represent poisoning, infection, or the spread of a curse. The taint rises through the roots into the second level, where humanoids bite into the roots, removing the taint as someone would suck out venom. The humanoids are missing limbs, and bear numerous black spots. The practice of purifying the roots shown to not be without a cost. At the highest level, the tree is healthy and full of leaves, surviving thanks to the sacrifice of those below. If the radiocarbon dating of this site is accurate, it is possible that individuals have been working to contain SCP-7027 for 20,000 years. On September 12, 1997, Security Officer Łukasz Maciejewski entered the Site-95 infirmary at 0600 hours to request medication for what he believed at the time to be a sinus headache. Medical personnel immediately noticed a black spot on Maciejewski's forehead, and after a thorough physical examination, determined that the subject was infected by SCP-7027, and exhibiting the first visible symptom of SCP-7027-1 transformation. Maciejewski was classified as anomalous and received the SCP-7027-1-251 designation, becoming the first and, at present, only recorded case of SCP-7027-1 to not be a member of GOI 0184. SCP-7027-1-251 willingly cooperated with its containment and observation, becoming a critical source of information due to being the solitary SCP-7027-1 to not be bound to GOI 0184's vow of silence. SCP-7027-1-251 Interview, September 13, 1997. Interviewed, SCP-7027-1-251 Interviewer, Dr. Sui Miyazawa. Begin log.
I know this may be regarded as unprofessional, but I wish to offer my sincerest apology. Had we known infection could offer in such a manner, we would have certainly taken stronger safety precautions.
You couldn't know.
Well, still, we'll do everything we can to undo your predicament and hopefully prevent this from happening in the future. Okay. With that said, I wish to ask you a few questions about the days leading up to your current condition. Did you by any chance directly interact with any SCP-20271? Any physical contact?
No.
Okay. And what of the monastery itself? Did you ever access the inner walls?
Just routine patrols, never lingered long.
Well, how do you feel? You seem rather calm, considering the gravity of the situation.
I don't feel anything, but I know I should. I should feel horror, but instead I feel nothing at all.
Do you have a history of depression?
No, this isn't a familiar experience.
So we can probably assume that this is a symptom.
And I should be angry. Angry that I can't feel, right? I know what my brain wants. It wants to scream. It wants to rage. But instead, nothing, just emptiness. It's like trying to locate a word in a dictionary only to find that it's been cut out. Now there is just a hole.
End log. By early 1998, SCP-7027 had spread to SCP-7027-1-251's left eye and formed a vein that wrapped around the subject's neck and connected to a newly formed black mark located at the cervical region of the spine. SCP-7027-1-251 will occasionally report headache before expelling dark smoke and sludge from his mouth, with both substances and forms evaporating too rapidly to allow analysis. Subject suffers frequent and violent tremors, causing the body to contort unnaturally and for the subject to walk with a stiff, shambling gait. As SCP-7027-1 belonging to GOI 0184 do not display similar reactions, it is possible that their teachings and practices, particularly meditation, ultimately allows them to better tolerate the effects of SCP-7027 infection. SCP-7027-1-251. Interview, February 5th, 1998. Interviewed, SCP-7027-1-251. Interviewer, Dr. Sui Miyazawa. Begin log.
Hello SCP-70271-251. I would like to ask you a few questions.
Subject is curled on the floor, staring at the ceiling with the remaining eye.
You're clearly in a state of acute distress. I've been told you have received morphine this morning. Has it helped?
No.
Okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you describe your pain? 1 being the lowest level of discomfort and 10
There's
being...
no scale that could possibly capture the pain I feel at this moment.
I'll just write you down as a 10. You again display unusual calm and clarity despite your ongoing predicament.
There's a separation. I don't know what else to call it. The pain is visceral, nauseating. I'm in unending agony, but it also feels like an out-of-body experience.
Subject suffers a coughing fit, causing black smoke to emanate from both natural and SCP-7027 created orifices.
We can end the interview early if you need a rest.
No. But what else can I say? The monks? They can take a decade to change. It's been what? Only a year?
Actually, you've been in containment for about 5 months, almost.
Is Khan on duty?
Subject is referring to Security Officer Khan Yang.
Can you ask him to put a bullet through my head? Though I'm guessing it will be just another hole with my condition, right?
We believe that to be the case. Yes, I will bring up your request for merciful termination to the director, but I can't make any promises.
End log. Due to the research potential presented by SCP-7027-1-251, the request for merciful termination was denied. SCP-7027-1-251's transformation displays significant deviation from other SCP-7027-1, warping the body in conjunction with its increasing number of void pits, each of which steadily grew in circumference at a rate of approximately 1.3 centimeters a year, and fusing the subject to the containment room floor. Prior to the cessation of brain activity, the subject developed symptoms of dementia and acute memory loss, though it is unknown if these were caused directly by SCP-7027 or were a natural response to SCP-7027-induced trauma. By the year 2000, SCP-7027-1-251 lost the ability to see but retain its mouth and right ear. SCP-7027-1-251. Interview, December 23, 2000. Interviewed, SCP-7027-1-251. Interviewer, Dr. Sui Miyazawa. Begin log.
Hello SCP-70271-251. It's that time again. How do you feel? Would you kindly describe your recent experiences?
The shadows won't stop. They reach inside and take, create claws that scrape and tear. I'd bleed for you, but all I have to offer is dust and oil.
And the pain? No need for scale. Just describe it as best as you can.
Oh, that part of me is in agony, but that part is falling deeper and deeper. How afraid it must be. A cool sludge moves beneath my skin. As far as I remember, it was always there.
Subject vomits and holds the black spewage in its hands.
Oh, no. It came out.
Subject smears the substance across the floor where it rapidly evaporates.
Oh, clumsy of me.
You mentioned shadows a moment ago. Do you see something?
Because I don't have eyes. You can't just assume that...
Do you see something?
There are skittering shapes in the darkness. Yellow carapaces, a pale coat. 100 bodies, each 100 legs. They were scared ones. I notice now how many memories were lost in the trade.
Like centipedes? And who are they sacred to?
Can you smell my fumes? It's incense. Did you know that? Like opium and myrrh and ancient books, it lingers on my tongue and tastes like forgotten dreams. It's not my memory. Something else remembers it. Something down deep below.
Who remembers?
The librarians. They do. It reminds them of the kingdom on the mountain. It reminds them of home. My home is a cage where there just feels like one. The dark and cold preserves. That's all that mattered.
End log. SCP-7027-1-251 would not regain consciousness until 14 days after the December 23, 2000 interview, and was unaware of its last conversation, displaying increased memory loss and confusion. By late 2001, the subject's lower body and left arm coalesced into a shapeless, hardened mound, and its remaining epidermis developed a gray, cracked appearance. SCP-7027-1-251 Interview, October 23, 2001. Interviewed. SCP-7027-1-251. Interviewer, Dr. Sui Miyazawa. Begin log.
Hello, SCP-70271-251. Are you able to communicate today?
Spiraling, round.
Do you remember my voice? Do you know who this is?
Mommy, it's cold. It's so cold. Please, let me in. Let me in.
No, I'm sorry. It's Dr. Sui. Do you even remember your name?
A memory of a memory of a memory, then nothing.
Describe what you feel.
Round, always down the drain, thrown away, flushed, the scraps, the dregs.
Are you even in there, Maciejewski?
The end comes for us all.
What do you mean? Do you mean the monks or something else?
The new king made them forget what the old king showed them. When they found the truth again, they buried it. The rituals remain, but they don't know what it means. Better not to know, but a blessing than a curse. Flesh to sprung up so much nothing. What a filthy, polluted filter we make. It isn't a hole. It's not. It looks like one, but it's not. I'm a hole, but I'm not the darkness.
Then what is it?
It's an eclipse. Did you know? The highest to die after what we did, all for trying to lift us to their heights. Tragic what miserable ingrates we are. Their moon is a deathless city, a city of no
Maciejewski! Shit! Get me out of here and secure the chamber!
End log. SCP-7027-1-251's collapsed body spread across the containment chamber as its void apertures merged to create a single portal which was designated SCP-7027-2. Unlike other SCP-7027-1, SCP-7027-1-251 failed to fully annihilate, with its remaining husk forming a 3.2 meter radius ring around the newly manifested anomaly and rendering SCP-7027-2 permanently fixed for the time being. SCP-7027-2's interior displays properties identical to smaller SCP-7027 created void apertures. Due to SCP-7027-2's size and apparent stability, unmanned exploration was deemed feasible. SCP-7027-2's interior environment is hazardous to organic life, but exhibits conditions similar to the vacuum of space, though with abnormally low temperatures, comparable to the Boomerang Nebula, LEDA 3074547. The Boomerang Nebula, located approximately 5,000 light-years from Earth, is the coldest known region in the universe, and measured at 1 Kelvin, or negative 272.15 degrees Celsius. Despite these similarities, there is nothing else to suggest that SCP-7027-2 connects to outer space, as no stars have been observed from within. Though no conclusive evidence has been discovered, the most accepted hypothesis is that SCP-7027-2 leads to a dimension outside of our own. There does exist a downward gravitational pull, but its source has yet to be discovered. Considering these factors, it was determined that the best method to survey SCP-7027-2's interior would be through a remote probe designed for long-term space exploration. On April 10, 2002, at 0900 hours, this probe was released into SCP-7027-2, from where it would record and transmit its findings to Site-95. Site-95 did not receive any notable transmissions until July 16, 2020, more than 18 years after its delivery into SCP-7027. Collected data includes a number of images, depicting gold-colored artificial structures which together appear to form a sprawling metropolis. These images were captured approximately 46 hours earlier, over a 12-second period before all contact with the probe was lost, the device presumably destroyed upon impact. Further research is pending. Holy black voids, Batman! Nah, that was probably too soon. Class dismissed. Have a good day. Alright, credits! SCP-7027 was created by Metaphysician. Dr. John Yoder was played by Andrew Vinson. POI 539 was played by Norbu Samphel. Dr. Sui Miyazawa was played by Sato. Security Officer Łukasz Maciejewski was played by Michael Matus. The picture of the SCP-7027 monk was taken from Wikimedia. The image of POI 539 was created by Imagine Art AI. The image of Maciejewski was created by thispersondoesnotexist.com. The image of the temple was taken from Learn Religions. The image of the Golden City was taken from Wikimedia. The depiction of Pha Trelgen Changchup Sempa was taken from Wikipedia. And Dr. Jonathan Isaac was played by Aliulo, who is our guest for this video, who also does narrations on the SCP Wiki. He also does narrations of the backrooms, and he constantly streams. So if you want to check out gaming content, or maybe other SCPs that I haven't covered that he has, go check out his channel. He chose the Trevor Project. Aliulo declined giving me an audio recording of why he chose the Trevor Project. He thinks it's a good charity. That's about it. He doesn't have a deep reason or anything. The Trevor Project is the leading suicide prevention and crisis intervention nonprofit organization for LGBTQ+ young people. They also conduct research studies to equip policymakers to make better laws for LGBT people. They do a lot of great work for the LGBT, and I can't think of a better charity to start off with. So the first share is going to the Trevor Project. But I will see you in 2 days when Aerials comes out. Alright, have a good one.